Yeah, hello, good afternoon, welcome. It is the Everton Daily. We are here to talk about
right here, right now,
a subject that no one's mentioned whatsoever. I don't think anyone will have had a conversation about it since Friday when it came out. I mean, the Premier League have kind of ignored all of this. If you look at their thing, this 10 points thing's buried way down there.
It's not easy to find, is it?
No,
you see Gareth Southgate training
exactly,
lads,
all of this. I mean, beyond this, we were obviously live on Friday. Make sure you like, subscribe while you're here,
please,
and get all your comments in and your thoughts. Let's just
haven't read it, you know.
Let's just reiterate.
That was a page turn, anyway.
Right? No. Before we begin, James says happy 65th.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. Let's just say this, right? Let's just put this out just for a second, right? Just to clarify.
Business spaz now.
No. This is just to clarify, right? We are not. And as far as I'm concerned, I've seen a lot of Evertonians, not all of them. I can't speak for everyone, but ones I've seen and all that.
Seek to, would you?
Never. Everything I say is always my own opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Is that
we don't even have an editorial.
No one. No. Well, the editorial is we aren't saying anything. Everton are not guilty.
No.
Here.
It's mad.
Not at any time. Right? Everton have, in this situation, in this scenario, Everton have breached PSR.
And make it very clear that they agree that they
breached and Everton have said they've done it. So there's none of this thing, just accept responsibility. We are accepting responsibility. The thing about this is it's totally disproportionate. The punishment is
totally is,
so.
Yeah.
Why Evertonians, for people who aren't Evertonians who are watching, why Evertonians are getting fuming over this and are wound up, and I've seen lots saying I'm still absolutely wound up, right? Is that when you get things like they've cheated or things like, which we'll come on to in a minute, things like, no, they're not accepting responsibility. I think we all are. I think what we're saying is this, ask yourself this if you're a non-Evertonian, right? Is this the worst thing a Premier League football club has ever done in the history of the Premier League? Is it the worst thing? Because you know what? There was a story about another club a couple of weeks ago come out that is way, way worse. But Everton have been given 10 points. And that is why we all feel aggrieved. I honestly think if it would have been 6 points, I think we'd have been pissed off. I think we might have felt slighted still.
Yeah.
Right? But if the Premier League would have gone, well, it's 6 points kind of for breaching PSR, and that's kind of what we'd agreed, so to speak, we'd have had to take it on the chin, wouldn't we? But it isn't. The 10 points is just plucked from the sky.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, lads and lasses.
So,
see that?
Yeah.
That's a long personal conversation with me and one of my mates. It was about meeting up.
Yeah,
because we used to work together. We meet periodically and we refine the date. And then he tags on the end. Everton's situation is really unfair. Hope your appeal goes well. That's a Man United fan.
I've seen loads. Listen, so Villa. Aston Villa are really basically stood right next to us.
Personally, there's so many, if you like, let's just badge it, non-Everton fans. This is wrong. Something's going wrong here, right? Of course, you're always going to have the ones who suck it up, paint things on monuments and God knows what else. If that's real. I don't know if it's real. I saw a photo. I didn't think it looked more like Photoshop to me, but someone somewhere would do it, wouldn't they? In other words, the tribal element of rivalry takes over, right? The grace of God and all that. But I think the balanced people, and frankly, the people who have bothered to read past sensational headlines about cheating and hundreds of millions of pounds of court cases coming your way, Everton, from all these wronged football clubs, blah, 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 blah. They're missing the big picture. It's disproportionate, which is the point you make. Guys, people, the absolute maximum you can get is 12. 12. We've got 10 for being what we say as a football club, not us, obviously, but what we say as a football club is about 10 over the allowed. The Premier League think it's 20 over the allowed. So what we're basically saying is, if you're 20 million over what you're allowed to do, over a period of 3 years, a second string right back cost, then you are going to get 10 points, right? Because none of our mitigation got took into account, really, right? And I don't think we'd be given extra points for being horrible or cheating or any of the other words people like Slater might choose to use, right? Because the Commission's report says literally, sorry, no, not literally, because I'm going to use words that are not in it, but they breached this by accident. In other words, because it does say they didn't do it. They didn't do it deliberately. So let me make that bit emotional from the defence side. We broke the rules by accident, and we've just been hit with a sledgehammer and a baseball bat from two different people at the same time for doing the most heinous crime known to man. Right? Having said all that, we shouldn't have got anywhere near this in the first place. Right? The leadership at the time should hold their heads in shame because they sleepwalked blindly into this space, up to and including bloody budgeting for finishing 6th and all sorts of things.
Absolutely.
But, and this is the real big but, I suppose, if this Premier League ever takes anyone to task ever again on this subject, the bar has been set that pretty much everyone is going to get 10 to 12 points, aren't they?
Well, they will be, yeah.
And the IC, the Independent Commission, have been a bit cute because they haven't said how they worked it out. So actually, it's subjective. It's like VAR, subjective VAR decision. It's not a fact-based one like Howard Webb would say, Premier League wanted 12 points. They wanted the maximum sanction. How does that work?
How do you see? This is what I don't get. Right?
No wriggle room for anyone who's worse.
I don't understand what the 12 point would have been. Then where does 12 points come from? I don't understand that. If the one it was supposed to be 6 and then 5 plus for every.
Well,
point.
1 for every 5 million quid.
Yeah. So how do you get to 12?
You don't.
You don't. It's nonsense. This is what I don't get about the whole thing. They've put a number out there which is absolutely bollocks, and the Commission haven't actually given us the Commission have got no rope because the Premier League one. This is the punishment. If you find those things wrong, this is the punishment. So forget about it being independent. It's not independent.
No, I think it is independent.
No, but it's not independent if somebody else has already give them the tariff.
It's not totally independent.
It's not independent, John.
The rules...
It's not independent.
The rules of the Premier League, if they only allow for 12-point deduction, then the Independent Commission could have chosen other punishments, couldn't they?
No, I know, but...
Be it transfer embargoes, big fines, expulsion from the league, all those sorts of things. So maybe, just maybe, the KC, as the leader of the Commission, just thinks, when you think that the biggest punishment he could have given us was throw us out the league, 10 points doesn't sound very bad in comparison with that, but it does sound bad in comparison to what the maximum point deduction is, which is 12. And the thing that is really going to... I mean, I don't think you're necessarily on your own crusade, Baz, about what the chief executive of the Premier League should do. But in his witness statement, he proposed a mechanism for determining how you calculate the points deduction. But he did it in such a way that the Commission told him to change his witness statement. Right? So back in March, when they referred us to this Commission, they didn't have a mechanism for calculating points deductions. They then created one and got it through the Premier League in August. And then presumably sometime during the Commission in October-ish time, the chief exec of the Premier League proposed that this Commission, which was formed or referred to prior to the change in rules, should use the new rules to determine what Everton's point deduction was. And curiously, gets really, really close to being what that one is. So I don't get it. Honest to God, I don't get it, because maximum was 12. They asked for 12, right? Master's calculating method comes up with 9. This Commission has come up with 10. And lawyers are going to make money again, aren't they? Trying to figure out, what did you mean? How did you mean it? What did you include? What didn't you include? And presumably Everton have got their ducks in a row already for how they're going to appeal. But I don't think that appeal should be anywhere near claiming that the Commission's not independent or the mitigations were all legitimate, because some of them were a bit flaky at best. But some of them are solid. And it, you know what I mean? If we'd seen something that says, actually, I'm the chair of the commission and we've decided you're getting 12 points, but we're knocking 2 off for this mitigation. But we want to see a line of sight about how you get to 10.
Let me ask you about the appeal process. Do Everton now, do they go double down on those? Do they look at the things that we've sort of lost on that we're not getting back and go, no, we're going after these things. We're going after the Gylfi Sigurdsson thing. We're going after the stadium thing, all the things that they seem to have just dismissed, which are really, really legitimate arguments that what we look like we're saying. Do we double down on them and go after them, or what do you think?
I wouldn't do that. If you take a very simple view of what the process is, right? So the Premier League decide that they think we've got a case to answer, so they form an independent commission, which then sees the evidence. The first evidence they see is, if you like, the case for the prosecution, right? Obviously, Everton give their view, and then he makes a decision, right? And in making the decision, he determines what he thinks the right, not just him, but his commission, the 3 people, and they concluded that we get a certain amount of points deducted. And then he tells us, and you can see it in the report, that all the mitigations that we put forward, which ones he said had some merit, which ones he said absolutely no, they do not. Okay? Now, you can't have, here's a very personal view, but I've worked in business for a long time, right? If you have a player, it's quite amusing, isn't it? Player X, right? So player X gets accused of something which never ever goes to court, blah, blah, blah. But in the moment, Everton ultimately dismissed him, right? Presumably for breach of contract, presumably for, dragging our name through the mud by involvement alone, right? But in trying to be sympathetic to what turned out to be something that never went to court anyway, and the guy's playing again now, isn't he, right? Yeah. They chose not to sue him for breach of contract. That was a business decision made by the football club, not to sue the player. Now, you might say that's doing the right thing, right? It's a bit rich then to expect an impartial observer to say that you should be able to count what you thought you could sue that person for as a positive against your, transgression of a line that's got 105 million written through it, right? So that's why that's been dismissed. The stadium one is an interesting one because it's never too late to do the right thing. If you're trying to get Everton banged to rights, then you can just say, well, you could have done that, but you didn't. And that's what it says in the report if you read the bit around that. But the object of the exercise here isn't, or maybe it is, to get Everton guilty, right? Maybe, just maybe, some of this is less about the crime and more about the criminal, because there are other criminals coming down the track who you want to take on if you're the Premier League. You want to lay down some precedents and some principles for how things can be determined. But all that is predicated on fans, let's make it emotional, not just Everton fans of football, believing that Man City will actually end up in a commission or a court, if you like, with the Premier League anytime soon, because they're not. So what they've actually done, which is why I did the Substack article about and the thing for beIN Sports about opening Pandora's box, is the Premier League are going to end up with scrutiny on them, aren't they? Why? How? What for? Right? And whether they've blindly gone into this, and clearly not, because lots of expensive lawyers around, thinking what you said, Ped, effectively, which is, in fact, Chris outside was saying it as well from the Red Men. Oh, I see, it's one of them, is it? They asked for 10 points, knowing full well it'll come down on appeal. But the mere fact we're talking about it might, you talk about doubling down, Ped, it might be that the Premier League double down and say we're going to look real numpties if this 10 goes down, right? So maybe they might seek to try and make it go up.
Go up to what, though?
12.
So go to 12.
Because that's what they asked for.
But they can't get to 12, though.
But they can appeal.
But they can't. But I know I appreciate that. But
both sides can appeal the judgment.
Where did he get the 2 extra points from? They don't exist.
It'll be a different commission.
No, I know, but
the points aren't going up.
What I'm
The
saying
points
is,
only
though,
go one
what I'm
way,
saying is,
and that's
where
down.
did he get the 2 extra points? Where did he ever get the 2 extra points from? The whole thing's supposed to be 6 points for what we did wrong.
No, 6 points.
No, that's what we were supposed to get for being.
Said who?
That's what was supposed to be. That's what everyone's
they
been saying.
recommended.
Well, that was all just gossip, wasn't it?
No, everyone over the weekend.
I think you're missing the point here, John.
No, what
It's
I'm
not
saying.
about-
No,
it's
no,
not
John.
about-
No, I get-
Sorry, show me anything official that says we were going to get 6
Well,
points.
then if there's nothing official,
Right,
then,
of course not.
why did we get 10 points?
Mathew got 10.
Because
that
that's
wasn't official.
That's the result of the commission.
No, I know, but
From
that's
where,
what I'm
though?
saying.
So how have they got
From the
them?
commission.
I
from
hope,
those...
John, I hope you're right. I hope you're 100% right on this, because that proves that it's even more nonsense.
Well, it is nonsense.
Because what you might be 100% right, John. I'm not. I would never.
I've read the report.
I'd
that's all.
never. I know that's good.
Yeah.
But this show, from whatever all the evidence I've seen, it was 6 points for what we've done wrong. That's like the standard tariff, plus a point for every 5 million we've gone over. Right.
Right.
So that's 10 million. So if that's what is out there,
24.5 million.
So
124.5 million. So that's
you are right,
19.5 million.
You are right.
Which it's not 20 then.
Yeah, it's not 20.
Is it part
no,
of
you're
5
absolutely right.
millions?
They've rounded it up. So again,
Yeah,
they're cheating.
so you're rounding
So
up,
they're
yeah.
cheating. But everything I've read suggests that we got 6 points for doing what we did wrong, and then a point extra for every. So if that's right, and I'm only going for what I'm saying.
That's how you can come to a conclusion of how the 10 has been
So
calculated.
how do you get to 12 points from
Well,
that?
you don't.
Exactly. So I'm
No. Listen.
So
Let me answer you then.
Okay, go on.
Right, okay. That's what Richard Masters of the Premier League, the chief exec, wanted the tariff to be calculated on. The commission refuted that and said, no, go away. We are the experts.
Okay.
We will determine it. And they've determined, curiously, the same number, but not that way.
Well, that's good news then.
Therefore, one can suggest it's subjective.
Okay.
Right? And therefore, you would expect Everton's... this started off with, I wouldn't appeal that way by rubbishing the commission or going back over old ground. Okay, fair enough, right? What I would do is I would seek to challenge the process and how they got to where they got to in the context of this seems to be a disproportionate punishment for the crime.
I hope you're right. I hope you're 100% right, John, because that proves what kind of nonsense it is. Because if it's not written down why we got the 10 points and how it was worked out, then I hope you're 100% right.
It's not written down.
But then that's brilliant then, because
It'll get reduced to
because
6.
that's nonsense then how they've come up with it.
No, well, the curiosity is, right, that we'll call it Richard Masters' formula or whatever, right? His thing is clearly based, if only loosely, right, on what the EFL does. And indeed, EFL cases are quoted in the document, right? So again, if you're going to appeal why you're referencing the EFL, right? You know, also appeal things like, well, as money has gone up, shouldn't the thresholds have gone up?
John Williams,
and so on and so on and so forth.
That's right, exactly what you're saying here. John Williams says, well, hang on, what about inflation then? The 105 million was set a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I believe that when you equate it to inflation at the time, it equates to 126 million, not 105 million.
There you go.
Exactly what
there you
you're
go.
saying.
So, but you see, if you step...
I think John's saying it at the time when when it was
But
looked at.
But if you look at and you read the stuff, clearly this is the first club down the pipe, right? And whatever they do now sets the precedent for who follows, right? Now, clearly, when Chelsea get hauled across the coals, why are you still investigating? They've got a punishment and paid it, presumably, with UEFA. Oh.
They've also admitted it, haven't they?
You haven't come here. Yeah. But that's a fine... So UEFA believe that money is appropriate. It doesn't have to be a sporting sanction. But the Premier League don't think it's appropriate, right? But if you look, and this is where every lawyer on the planet will have a view on this, if they're interested in football, won't they? But how about this one? The other thing that's inside that report is fun, which is why you were talking about clubs and why them and why not them and all this sort of stuff, right? Is the result of the commission is that it's taken as being, fact is too strong a word, but if you breach the rules in the reporting period...
Yeah, I am listening.
There's a couple of things coming out of this. One, you've had a sporting advantage, right? And the sporting advantage... has applied for the whole of the reporting period.
Right.
So I offer you a very simple variation on that. Pretend it's a normal 3-year thing, right? And in the first year, you lose 104 million.
Mm.
You know, sorry,
Yeah.
The following year, you don't go up at all. Yeah?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And then the last year, you lose like 3 million.
Mm.
Right? And oops, you've breached it.
You've breached it,
okay? But you only breached it in the last year.
Yeah.
Oh, a better one. You didn't breach it at all in year 1, didn't breach it at all in year 2, and then you did breach it in year 3. Bit like Chelsea, you went mad.
You went mad, yeah.
Okay? How would you say, if you could demonstrate clearly that you breached it in the 3rd year because you bought Barry Cass for £200 million, that's why you broke the rules, why would the sporting advantage be perceived to have occurred in year 1 and 2 as well? Because that's what this report seems to imply. As soon as you breached it, because it's over 3 years, or 4 seasons in this case, right? Because it's over 3 years, you've had that advantage for 3 years. No, we bought Baz for 200 million in year 3. So things like that will have to be tested.
You know what I don't get, right?
And there's no business person on that board either. There's a finance director of West Ham for 15 and a half years.
A West Ham fella who was involved in the Tevez. We've had a Leeds fella on it. I mean, how impartial are you?
He's a lawyer who was employed by Leeds.
By Leeds for a number of years.
Yeah.
So if you go and work somewhere for even 3 days, you've got an affiliation with them. Oh, and if they're involved in a possible
It is
thing.
interesting, yeah.
And it's very interesting that, is it, you know, it's the West Ham fella that's trying to put a case forward for the others on it, basically. No win, no fee, kind of.
Is he?
Fucking Better Call Saul
Baz,
character.
Just hold that thought.
Yeah, go on.
For 1 second.
Go on.
Come back.
Okay.
What was that about?
I don't know what that was about, but pedal now.
He's up to no good.
So you've got that going on as well. So I think Everton are absolutely right to be highlighting all this. I think I'd be pushing, I don't know whether they will, but me personally would be pushing the fact that the commission was prejudiced anyway because the Premier League were making noises about 12 points to every journalist who would listen. I don't see how you can independently go into somewhere when you've got noise in your ear from the people prosecuting trying to tell you it should be worse.
It's quite common, right, when they do their opening speeches for the prosecution to say what they think the punishment should be.
Oh, absolutely. But one thing, and having worked in courts with social services for a number of years, you can't speak to anybody ahead of the hearing.
That's right.
And the Premier League did. It was everywhere before.
I know, and it's crystal.
And it doesn't matter.
It's crystal clear that it's people inside the Premier League who were briefing favoured journalists, right, for their own needs or whatever, but that, you know, you've got to also look at the professional standing, particularly of the 2 legal guys, right? I know you shake your head, but there's no value in saying those guys are prejudiced. There's no value at all. You've either got a robust argument about the disproportionality of the punishment, and it can't be explained how you've determined it, and you go at that, or you say, well, you know, that Casey, you know, he's a Leeds fan, really. You know, that's that's just not credible.
Okay. But the punishment's not credible, so we're all here.
Well, it's disproportionate, yeah.
Because, and I'll tell you why it isn't credible, because it's not written down anywhere. It wasn't written anywhere. There's no black and white rules.
They're in the Premier League handbook.
So for doing PSR, failing it, you get 6 points?
No.
Okay, so again, just to reiterate what I've just said.
No, but you have to listen to what I say as well.
But you can't jump in and go, they are.
They are, because you can read the Premier League. Hang on a second.
And you've dived in, and I've just rode the challenge, and you will get done by VAR for a late challenge. There was nowhere that was said, when you fail PSR, you get 6 points, right?
Right.
There should be.
There is now.
It's great, isn't it? Because you're going up into court and I just changed the rule.
No, I understand.
Can we put this in? Which is what the Premier League done, which should be illegal. You can't see a case come down the track and go, let's alter rules to try and put in, which is what they tried to do.
The Premier League's all the football clubs. It's interesting. It would be interesting to know whether that was a unanimous decision. Yeah, who voted for, who voted against.
Probably the same ones.
Did all those involved in this case set themselves as, you know, the 5 clubs who had the secret meeting, secret, confidential, I think was it called, or secret meeting, which no one knew about.
Nick Igo.
Yeah. Secret meeting.
Oh, no, wasn't it? It was the other, Igo, the other fella.
Yeah. Secret meeting back in March, right? Which did a classic legal kick the can down the road. You may have a case, but only if they're found guilty. Well, that's all that's happened. You may still have a case, and they have been found guilty, but it's under appeal. So sit down, lads, right? But the Premier League, and we talked about it on the channel last week, didn't we? About some of this looks like they're making it up as they go along.
Yeah.
So why, after all these years, did they suddenly go, whoa, hang on a minute, if it's a points deduction, how do we calculate it? Oh, I don't know. Well, we better have a rule for that then, right? And the KC was quite right and pushed back on it, didn't he? Right? But when I say it's in the rules, it's in the handbook, it is. It gives carte blanche for the independent commission to set any punishment they want that they think is appropriate. And
so it needs
and that's points deductions, fines, transfer embargoes, expulsion from the competition, blah, blah, blah. And we've all known that, Everton fans in particular, right, since we suddenly got referred to this commission, because we all get out and have a look, don't we? So, oh my goodness, we could get anything here, right? And that's how they set it up when they set it up, right? Now, one could be cynical, and say, when there's very little codifying of this, it becomes hugely subjective. And the commission itself refers to itself as the experts, right, who will work it out. I have no idea, personally, how a very, very good legal person or two and a finance guy know what the impact of a sporting sanction is. They're not professionals in sporting sanctions, are they, per se, right? But that's what all the Premier League clubs signed up to. That if you get dispute, it goes to an independent commission, they decide.
See, I don't know. Who chose the independent panel?
Well, they have a judicial panel, don't they, which have qualified people, and I guess the Premier League pick people off that.
So it's the Premier League.
But absolutely, you could argue. Well, clearly, I don't know the full process because I'm not sad enough to read it all. I guess you haven't either. But no. I mean, I don't know whether Everton got to say, well, could we have a different one? You know, like you can say, I don't want that jury member because I think you know.
Exactly what you should be doing.
But we know as a competition, the Premier League isn't awfully good. We'll have to look at all the debates we have around VAR and PG model and what have you. The Premier League is not very good at making sure things look squeaky clean.
No, they don't care. Well, it's in plain sight.
Manchester-born bloody referees refereeing games with a Manchester club in is a bit. Really? Was that your only choice?
Well, we had a West Sussex referee in Everton Brighton. I'm not saying he was a Brighton. He might have been a Southampton fan.
No, and
it still should be.
And that's the point. You can't just be straight and upfront and honest with such huge amounts of outcome. The outcome could be devastating one way or the other. And you think, well, don't have anyone who's been involved before, with any of the people who are upset.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. But of course, you also want the very best people. Right? We've heard all this before, don't we, about have the very best people, regardless of whether what they are.
Yeah.
And if the KC is the very best person on their judicial panel to chair this, and he has experience, because he went through it with Leeds and stuff, then that contributes to him being the very best person.
Yeah.
And you can imagine from afar saying, well, we need a finance guy on this. Well, this guy used to be, for 15 years, the finance director of a Premier League football club. Surely that makes him qualified.
Get him on. Should just add 3 cockfights, didn't it?
So I think Everton should...
To be fair, I've had loads of Reds saying this is a disgrace.
I have.
And the thing about it is, even taking off... And I know it's difficult. It's difficult to take your tribal hat off as a football fan. Of course it is, and I accept it. And I know people love it, and people like having a go. People want to see other fans suffer. I get it all. I get it. I don't like it because I don't think I'd be doing it, but I can't judge people by my own standards. But the reality is, this is a bad thing for the league in general, because
it is.
Once they open this door, you're all at risk.
It's a box, Baz.
It's a box. It is Pandora's box. You're all at risk.
Totally.
Newcastle fans, and seeing Geordie Tune for Life, who's always on here, and he's always very balanced, quite balanced his view, and he's like, we should all be behind that. I think and all that.
Fans,
but Newcastle is still under investigation for the takeover, and then what happens there? Other clubs going down the road, like you're seeing Leicester fans having a go, but they're under investigation. Forest they're looking at Nottingham Forest. So you've got it all. Where does this stop? I mean, this hurts. Let's go back to Newcastle. Forget about the takeover. Ultimately, the teams who have the power, they won't want Newcastle gate crashing their six.
No, absolutely.
They'll want everything but Newcastle gate crashing their six, because it's like anything. When you've got a little party going, you know, they tried to keep City. There was 4, don't forget. They tried to keep City out of it as much as they could, and City were just simply too powerful. And I've got in. Then Spurs just happened to be very successful for a number of years, and it was almost like, should we let them in? But Tottenham is still looked at as like
6 of 6.
But really, Newcastle how are Newcastle gonna be allowed to get in?
They could gate crash it a la City, couldn't they?
At the point of this, Newcastle, if they were given a bit more freedom, could be able to bridge it very quickly. They won't want Newcastle bridging
Absolutely not.
They won't want Newcastle bridging it. The same with Villa. Villa are a fantastic football club. They're very much like us. Huge club, massive support. They're a cracking football team now with a brilliant manager. Well supported. They should be. Why can't Villa muscle the way in? They won't want Villa doing the same. No. They will not. And this is the problem. Villa have got wealthy owners.
Yeah.
The biggest issue with all of this is just step back and just go, right, pretend this is Germany and we're looking at it from an outside perspective. Everton had a wealthy owner who wanted to put money into the business, right?
I'm just laughing at some of that's in this report, which is beyond belief.
Right, they wanted to put, I know it wouldn't happen in Germany because the fans, but just, go with me in France, whatever.
Yeah.
But our wealthy owner wanted to put money into the business and wasn't allowed to just put his own money to go. Now, go back 10 years, just hear me out. Go back 10 years when City were doing it, fine, no problem with it.
Chelsea before then.
Like, love to be City. No issue with it. No issue with Chelsea. They had, well, they've done it very differently, obviously, but Chelsea were able to put money in. Lots of clubs have put money in. 10 years ago, if Everton would have had the money in 2013, 10 years, isn't it? 2013, would have had Mashiri and Usmanov, whatever. He would have been able to put money into, I want to buy that play, right, and put money into the football club. We'd have been able to do that up until the point where they went, we want to change the rules now because they are becoming too powerful. Same at Newcastle. Newcastle 10 years ago would have been able to go, right, we're buying Mbappe and we're paying 250 million for him and all that, if you could get him, whatever. They would have been able to gate that.
Who do you think had the idea that, you can't have any related party movements of players anymore like you used to be able to?
Of course, it's all... But what I'm saying is, it's the only industry in the world where you can't put money into your own business to help your business.
Completely mad.
So that's going on. So come back to now, which is Everton would have been able to do, which meant Everton wouldn't have breached FFP. But even park Everton there for a minute. Villa hit a ceiling soon because they're at the spending limit. They can't do anything.
Yeah.
It's looking great at the moment.
Can't build a stadium because look what happens to you if you do.
So Villa are at the wall now. Villa are at the ceiling where they're putting it and going, we want to go there, and our owner's quite wealthy. You're telling me we can't spend money to break in and hope everything just goes okay for 2 or 3 years with those powerful clubs can't, and then we can get in and get a bit more money to maybe challenge them.
Yeah.
Newcastle will put the ceiling very soon. Other clubs will do the same. But the 6 who are already more powerful, have more power, more money in the Premier League because of overseas that everyone voted for, have got highest sponsorship deals and everything because they tend to be in Europe, bigger wage bills and all that. The gap's just gone bum, 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 bum. And you might get a Leicester. Newcastle kind of done it last year, didn't they?
They did.
They were ahead of the game. They went bang, bang, stayed up and carried it on with outstanding.
Well, all those years ago, Everton's won CL year, exactly, that sort of thing.
But Leicester had it, won the league and won an FA Cup. And then pretty soon, the other clubs just went, you're not doing that again. They spent a bit more because they've got it. Man City have just posted £731 million turnover.
Everton's is like 190.
Ours is at 181 million.
We're talking about clubs whose wage bill is double our turnover. And these are the treacherous 6 who wanted to bugger off and come back with more money.
So what we're saying is, I get the tribalism. Everton haven't cheated, unless you mean putting bricks and building a stadium is cheating. If that's what your argument is the cheating, then we are cheating by building a stadium. That's cheating.
City have cheated over 100 times. Then,
but if you look at it the way it is, if you just step back for a second and go, and I think a lot of fans have gone, all right, yeah, they've done that, and therefore there must be. But when you look at the whole picture, have they really cheated? What they've tried to do? I mean, that article by Jonathan Norcroft yesterday was nothing short of embarrassing for a fella who's normally a decent journalist. Yeah. It was, but he has got ties to Leicester, so there you go. But it's an embarrassing article.
But we've had years almost, right, and certainly all this year, with every single time a discussion occurred on the TV or whatever around Everton, it would always say, and they lost £400 million, blah, 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 during this period. And we're arguing, because the Premier League say, no, actually, 124. And you're allowed 105, 124. Where's the 400 gone? Because people who don't bother or don't choose or can't whatever to understand is not every penny you spend, right, goes into a pot called your failing FFP, right? But Manchester United, the biggest commercial income generate machine on the planet, are pretty likely, aren't they, to find themselves checking whether they're okay with FFP before they spend money.
Someone's done some sums. I don't know if they're accurate.
If it's them,
right? I've no
shocking.
clue if they're accurate. But apparently, right now, Manchester United have lost 200 odd million and are going to be referred to. Now, that could be wrong, but this is what's out there just right now. And if the same scale was applied to Manchester United, they would be minus 25 points. And the same with Chelsea would be minus 37 points. If that scale, and I know it, but if that scale was applied, such is their losses, right? If it's real, I don't know because I haven't gone through Manchester
the losses
United,
are real, but that's pre the allowances you're allowed to take off. Listen, but Chelsea are in a worse boat. Their numbers even bigger.
It's what I'm saying is, and what the big argument is we're here is Everton's is disproportionate. Should Everton be punished for something? Yes, they've gone over. We can argue all day, but it's me against someone else saying, well, that they should be included. Them losses should be fine because this has happened, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened. Do I believe that, like, I wouldn't say once in a lifetime, but unprecedented things took place during this time period? Yes. Do I believe there should have been some softening towards Everton because of that? Yeah, I do actually. I do believe a world war. I do believe a global pandemic. And I do believe
once every 100 years
building a stadium within those times should have meant, okay, normally, what have they done since then? Because the Premier League, and this is something I find really difficult, why were the Premier League working with Everton? Why? Forget about whether they were trying to help Everton. They should have said, no, mate, you are over the line. You're getting done.
They never referred us to an independent commission in March 2022, did they?
Clubs went to them and went, hang on, what about this? And the Premier League said, nothing to see here, Gov. Off you go. Right?
Yeah.
But why? My gripe would be, as a fan of another club, why would the Premier League working with Everton? They should have just gone, you're over the thing. You're getting docked 6 points, lads, because you're over it. That's what they should have done.
Because, and you've said this many times here, because the clue's in the name, isn't it?
Make sure you like and subscribe.
Profit and sustainability regulations. You know, they're there to stop football clubs going out of business. Right? So so the first tariff, if you or the first sanction, if you like, that has real serious consequence is effectively being put in special measures, isn't it? We're going to look at what you're doing. We're going to approve or not.
2 years.
I know, yeah. And then when they choose to take you to an independent commission, they go, yeah, we were doing that. But, well, it's you who has to stick to the rules, right? So, and I think that's where it's really disappointing that the people from the Premier League can submit their witness statements and say what they think was happening at the time, and the people at Everton are nowhere to be seen, right? So that's an issue in its own right. But hands up, I mean, I'd be really interested, particularly those people out there who are not Evertonians, so can't be accused of being somewhat biased, right? How many of you think there's going to be ever another one of these commissions on this subject? Ever? Because the maelstrom of backlash they're going to get, the Premier League, and perhaps the inability to explain. Listen, we were talking to Richard last time, weren't we? Let's talk again. Richard Masters, mate, if you're listening, it'd be really cool. Ring in when we do our dial-in ones, right? But, you know, they're going to think, well, we've done Everton now, right? But what do we do with the next one? What do we do with the next one? Because if the next one is worse than us, you won't just be saying if 12's the max, how come we got 10? It'll be, and this is what, again, the media tend to sensationalise stuff, don't they? And they'll easily convert, well, City are going to get 70 points of deduction. But even if they don't, let's pretend Man City do something which they decide is a sporting sanction. Is the sporting sanction for a club like Everton or Nottingham Forest or West Ham or whoever, or Aston Villa, getting deducted 10 points the same as Manchester City getting 10 points? A team who gets 80, 90 points every single season.
90, mid-90s.
Yeah.
Single
because they have spent money like whenever they wanted, and whenever someone comes towards them, be it UEFA or the Premier League, they say, see you in court, right? It took so long to get Everton to court, allegedly, because it's such a big thing and complex and so on. That
for one charge.
So Man City, no time soon, is it? No time soon.
I think just wanted to go back to what you were talking there about disinformation. Though I think that's a big thing.
It is.
Over the weekend, you just mentioned it with an article. We've had multiple articles. We've had the first thing I saw on Friday night was on Sky, and we've got them talking about all the number 10s we bought in the summer. And I'm like, how is that relevant?
It's not.
How is that relevant? I mean, I understand yet the wages are still on, and one of those number 10s was mentioned in this, but it's that, you know, on a national radio station that likes to talk about sport. Well, they spent 700 million. Like, this is one of the hosts. Oh, they spent 700 million. It's like, when did we spend 700 million? We're talking about this time period, about this time frame.
A very defined period.
Someone said 700 million.
The Natalie
Sawyer,
who should be a little bit more clued up, considering the amount of work she gets off Evertonians. I'd stop that. 700 million, about 700 million. Well,
the net
suddenly that puts a narrative in people's heads, though.
Yeah.
And when you hear people talking about how many number 10s we bought in 2017, and
it's 2023.
And Jonathan Northcroft, and I know Jonathan, and I'm disappointed in him because he used to live in Egbert. This used to be his patch, and then he went to Leicester. Talking about how we splurged under Frank Lampard. I've done the numbers that last night. Like, you can do the numbers like on a.
Takes you 4 seconds.
On a front, you know, we were 13.
Transfer market will do it for you.
We were 13 million up.
The website,
over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Now I know that doesn't factor in wages. I know that doesn't factor in contract extensions. I understand that. I understand that's part of it. I understand that doesn't factor in sacking managers and all the rest of it. But the basics are, we earn more money by selling players, and the players we sold were a hell of a lot better than the players we bought. And you've got inflation, you've got all those different things that add to it. And yet they're talking and I put a tweet out, and the amount of people who got back to me, like Reds and Newcastle fans, who were like, you cheated and you spent 35 million in the summer on a striker. We have not put a penny down for the fella. We have not spent a penny on the fella yet. We haven't spent a penny. The only money we spent in the summer was on Danjuma for a loan. Like, these people talking to
and lots of people have been going out the outdoor. Yeah, I
wouldn't dare tell a Liverpool fan how their club is run, or a Newcastle fan how their club is run, and yet they come to us and tell us how, because the narrative out there that's been created by the media once again is that, and all this is you're building the hype up. You're building and you're building and you're building it because you know that there's an even bigger story coming over the hill. And if the Everton story's big, oh my God, we're going to write books for days
about
on Manchester City and Chelsea and whoever else. Whether it's they're probably praying Manchester United get done because they can all write a book about it. And this is the worst thing about this. You're losing the actual narrative because people want to build up this story of Everton are the worst of the worst. Well, no, sorry. They're not the worst of the worst, because guess who's coming up the hill? The fella who's won the title 7 out of the last 10 years, or whatever it is. They've done the treble, because that's the real story. And like you said, John, you can build that up because no one knows when it's coming. It's the never-ending story without the blood.
The headlines came out straight away.
Bloody horse
Chelsea City could get relegated. You know,
of course it is. That's the real story, and that's the story the Liverpool fans are building up, and everyone else wants to see. We are the first course. We are the little bit before you get your main.
It's not even soup. It's before then.
We're the roll. We're the roll.
What's this? Seeing Paul Joyce said that we've committed more offences the past few years. What is he talking about?
No, Paul Joyce hasn't.
He hasn't said that at all.
No, he hasn't.
Well, let's move.
No, it wasn't even a black one. It's a legitimate. What he said was if
everyone's under scrutiny.
Yeah.
No, I think what they're saying is this. So I think this is where we need to move the conversation on. So you've got the conversation now about where they're going to look at this year's. So those 2 years and this year. I mean, I don't know.
He's talking about the reporting periods changing because it's a rolling 3 years.
But again,
right?
that's mad because that feels like double jeopardy to me. You've already been done for those 2 years and getting done for them again. But I think what we should talk about is other clubs and what other clubs can get out of it. Because I think this is the massively confusing part of it, isn't it? Of what other clubs can get out of
the 5, you mean?
Well, yeah, and I think this is where it's massive. We hear the word sued, the werewolf from the Mail keeps on dropping the word sued in there. So what is going on with that? What can those other clubs do now, John?
Well, again, people, it's really boring stuff, isn't it? But at least it's written down and people can go, you don't have to, we'll talk about it, but you can go and read it yourself, particularly the secret meeting that took place in March. And fundamentally, those 5 clubs, right, they sought the right to actually turn up at our independent commission and say how hard done by they've been, right? And the KC listened to what they had to say and said, no, you're not, right? You're not coming to this, right? However, what he did say was you may have a claim to be compensated for losses or whatever if Everton are found guilty. And of course, last week, Everton were found guilty. Therefore, those clubs have 28 days to decide whether they want to pursue Everton for compensation. And that's through the Premier League. That's not suing them in a high court anywhere, right? And amazingly, it would be the Premier League who determined how much the compensation would be if indeed there was compensation. But then the worm would turn, right? Then it would be, if you will, pick one, Leicester City being the prosecutor and saying, we lost this because of what you did and we want compensating for it. The same with Nottingham Forest, the same with Southampton, the same with Burnley, and the same with Leeds. Yet some of the clubs like Watford or Southampton, perhaps, who maybe have a bigger case than others, have already said now we're not interested, haven't they? Right? So between March and now, some of those 5 have gone, we're not going to spend money chasing a thing that's not going to happen. A thing that's not going to happen. So, but the answer to your question, Petty, it's going to be fascinating to see what they claim their losses are. Is it like a couple of million quid because you finished 17th and you would have finished 16th or whatever? Or is it I got relegated and the sensationalising of 100 million?
So can Leicester then, because I understand like Leicester or whoever could say, or whoever, loads of them could say, well, we finished a place worse off, so that's 2 million quid you owe us.
That sort of thing,
I get that.
Yeah.
Can Leicester say for last season, you relegated us, so we want the money we lost in that year?
Where did they finish in the league?
1 place below us.
Yeah. So how would they have stayed up?
If we'd had the points.
Well, we'd have gone.
We didn't get a points deduction.
No, I'm saying if.
No, I'm playing.
You're playing you, but I'm saying if. So, all right. See, this is where I think when people talk about the larger thing,
the 100 millions and
things.
No,
I'm talking about the city.
Oh, Man City.
See, this is where I think Pandora's box really opens. Because if Manchester City get done, then can you imagine the amount of money people can sue them for?
Oh, it would just go on and on and on and on. I mean, the thing is, and I don't know what the brief was, no pun intended, but clearly the Premier League does brief the Independent Commission in the sense of this is why we want you to form, if nothing else, right? And up until that point, it's an alleged offence, isn't it? Now it's a proven offence, right? But it draws attention to some of the clauses in the rule book around acting in utmost good faith, for example.
Yeah.
Well, Man City are very clearly not acting in utmost good faith. So minimally, they're guilty as charged if they're charged with not acting in the utmost good faith. And it's dead simple. They've been asked for stuff and they refuse to hand it over, right? So you've got 100 thingies that you have to go down one at a time. I'm guessing this is why we have the conversations where maybe half of them are not really that heavy anyway. But as Ped says, how many do you need out of the other 40 or 50 for them to be found guilty of before everyone who's ever played them at any time says you cheated?
I was taking the mickey the other day, but I was saying if this was real, right, this claim, and they genuinely believed it was real and this and whatever, then Everton could turn around and go, right, we missed out on the Champions League in 2014 by 3 points. We were beaten by Man City in May. So it wasn't like we lost in September and that was it. We were beaten in May, 3 or 4 games for the end of the season. So therefore, we want recompensed for Champions League, okay, which we'd have been in. We got beat by Manchester City in an FA Cup quarter-final in 2020. We won, done for that. We got beat by Manchester City in 2016 in a League Cup semi-final. Cost us a place at Wembley in a big that we want recompense for that. Oh, and we lose to City every year home and away, so that wouldn't have put us in any wouldn't have put us in any relegation. If we'd have won 6 points, which we'd have beat them with, they wouldn't have cheated. So therefore we wouldn't have been that. Oh, and on the back of that, Chelsea are also cheating, and they beat us in an FA Cup final, a League Cup semi-final. They've also beat us at Stamford Bridge every year. So the 3 points we'd have got at Stamford Bridge, we'd have been away from relegation.
But I'm going to say, but if you finish higher up the table, you don't breach proper sustainability regulations.
And also,
it's all saw in the branch you sat on, isn't it?
Also, if Manchester City, we should sue the Premier League because Manchester City shouldn't be in the Premier League by now. So we should all sue them for everyone's petrol who went to an away game at Manchester City. You know what I mean? It's like, it's stupid, isn't it? It's just stupidly endless. This whole thing.
Then every club can sue Everton.
Exactly. Every club should sue Everton.
All
in case we've beaten them. This thing is stupidly endless.
You can't just go, hang on, well, we went down, so we're suing them. Well, what about, like you said before, what about a team that might have got into Europe if Everton wouldn't have took points off them?
Stupidly endless. Arsenal could say the downfall of their last season was Everton beat them.
They were unbeaten till we beat them. They could have won the league. So Arsenal needs to sue.
It really does become a stupid thing.
But this is why there was that. Because don't forget, it come out a while ago that Premier League teams weren't allowed to sue each other. And I know there's been some things saying, oh, well, maybe they can. But it was for that reason and that reason only.
I don't think they can. It's just compensation that has to go through
the Premier League,
through this commission.
But don't forget, there was
They've got 28 days to do it, and some of them are, like John said, some of them are basically going, "This is pointless." For
no
what?
pun.
Well, Leeds would only, by a lawyer has said this, Leeds would get £2 million off Everton because they'd have still been relegated. So Leeds would get £2 million, which will probably cost them more than $2 million in legal fees. So it's whether you want to pursue that.
But you talk about journalists sensationalising stuff because they've got book deals lined up and what have you. But if you look at a situation where in a given season, you say, well, if Everton had got 10 points that season, they'd have been bottom. Well, only the third bottom would be safe. The other two would still get relegated.
And the other thing is, arguably, we wouldn't have got 10 points.
No, but if
because it would have been earlier in the process. So it's only been dragged on. So again, Nick Redmond on the super chat says, imagine having Vardy, Daka, Iniacho, Tielemans, Maddison, and then losing 2 teams with Neil Maupay and then suing for a pitch advantage. The Karens. Listen, I understand some of them clubs might go, oh yeah, but when you actually look at it, you've got to go, we went down because we were crap. Because if you finish below Everton in the last 2 seasons, you must have been bad because we were bad. Do you know what I mean? And that's the way it is. This thing, and it's been peddled by the werewolf, whose bird's definitely been blasted by an Evertonian behind his back, because he's just constantly every day. It's the same thing every day.
He's a parody now, isn't he?
Every day.
People keep on clicking on it though.
Well,
that's it.
People
It's the only way. It's probably the only
people
reason
keep on
he's got a
recycling the
job.
stories.
Yeah.
The only way to
Better
stop this
ignore him.
happening is to just ignore it.
Yeah.
Just block the mail. Block. Someone said, "Why don't we go? We don't go on Talk Sport because it's owned by Murdoch. That's why we don't go on Talk
Same
Sport."
as we wouldn't read that paper.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't reference
And we do
that
get asked
paper.
a lot, by the way.
We do get asked a lot by us, but we don't go on.
Talksport 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
It's basically that paper, but for radio.
Yeah, so
that's
it's the same thing. It's like we
Talk TV, we say no to as well.
Yeah,
Same
Talk
reason.
TV, been that.
And that's not against the people there now.
But I'd say to any Evertonian, don't go on those places because they peddle shite, they peddle lies, and that's why we wouldn't go on those places.
Why we
So
wouldn't?
just block
This
the mail.
city doesn't buy
Yeah.
that paper. The radio station is exactly the same. It's owned by the same people.
So
and you
just
listen to
block
it, you
the
buy
mail,
that
block the
paper.
the Star at the same story as the Express because they're owned by the same people.
That's right.
This is what media is becoming in this country. This is why you have us. But that's the point. It's like, stop listening to these people. Stop giving them oxygen. Cut them off.
But what happens, Ped, and this is the problem, you touched on it before, is that these people put inaccuracies out.
Yeah.
And then everyone
Right.
runs with it. I've had
Right.
loads.
That's why the country's the way the country is.
I get it from like lads who were mates, like, but of other fans going, you spent 700. I'm like, go and do our thing. We are third from bottom for net. Now, people can go net spend, right? You can. Absolutely. I'm a great believer in when you spend money, your team should reflect it. Walter Smith left Everton all those years ago with minus 500 grand spent. He still spent 58 million and Everton were crap. So for me, he's a crap manager at Everton. Great manager for Rangers.
Nice person.
A great fella, but he didn't do a great job at Everton. Right? Fast forward that all of these years. Everton have spent money, but Everton's net spend, which essentially when you flip net spend to profit and sustainability, Everton are third bottom in the last 5 seasons, right? Which means they've brought in, almost the same as what they've spent. We had one summer of craziness, which we did. We spent 174 million, and when we did buy 29 number 10s, and we were all saying it, why are we spending that money?
Including
One of those, by the way,
the man who was doing the buying.
Well, one of them was 45 million quid for a start.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't need them. But hey ho, we admit that. No Evertonians go, no, we never. Because we did. We did.
Yeah, but there are, when you say that, there is spending money, but like net spend is important because we sold Luca Dean and replaced him with 2 fullbacks who weren't ready.
No, but I've seen this yesterday.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is, though, you have to take into consideration what you're replacing. You lose one.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, I know. I'm just clarifying it. I'm just saying.
Spent.
But if you bring that money back in as well, that represents where you are as a football club, isn't it? It's because
I seen this yesterday. Someone said, all right, in that season, then you sold Luca Dean, then you spent the money immediately on 2 fullbacks. So can I just clarify that as well? John will back me up on this from a business perspective. Everton sold Luca Dean for 27 million to Villa, rising to 29, whatever. Everton bought Vitaly Michalenko for 18 million and Nathan Patterson for 12 million. Right? So on the 30. Face of it,
Call
you
it
go,
30.
Oh, so you've still spent 2.5 million more, but no. The amortisation for Michalenko,
that's what counts for P&L.
4 million quid, and the amortisation for Nathan Patterson was 2 million quid.
And Dean's wages would have been,
and Dean was on
probably more than they put together.
Right, but even take the wages aside, right? Forget the wages. We got in 27.5, and we spent 6. And yeah, that's 6 million. Everton have to spend it the year later, and Everton have to spend it the year. We get that, but in that year, which is the financial year, the PSR, Everton were 19 million up. So even though, you can go, well, hang on, you bought them to... We brought
but that was my point.
A 19 million.
That was going to be my point.
Yeah.
Is that... but that was going to be my point. You sell a player and you bring in 2 more, but you've brought in 2 players of lesser quality who take longer to settle. They're on less wages. People will go, oh yeah, but you bought those 2 players. It's like as I said, when we bought Beto, well, we haven't paid anything for Beto. No. And he was really the first major purchase we've made. Don't forget, we sold Anthony Gordon, we sold Richarlison. People forget these things.
And all the little bits and bobs.
Moise Keane.
Yeah.
Moise Keane,
Ellis
25
Sims,
million.
Bits and
Ellis
bobs.
Sims, Tom Cannon, 17 million. Go and do... I don't mind fans having a go, because it is the tribal thing, but have a go from a level where you understand. I would never go to a bloody Nottingham Forest fan, really, and go, "Yo, you're a disgrace, you've done this," because I don't know enough. I could turn around and go, "My God, Forest have signed like 50 players in the last 2 seasons." Right? Now, Greg, our mate, who's a Forest fan, might go, "I know, but we signed that many in the first summer because we lost." I think they had 9 players on loan or something. You went, "They went, we have players." You go, oh, "Okay, so that means, how have you spent that?" Well, we'll suffer, and they will suffer down the road, won't they? Unless they start making some sales. But I don't know the ins and outs of that. I don't know the ins and outs of Villa. I don't know the ins and outs of West Ham. You can just see Villa buying player after player after player. But then you go, "I know, but they did sell Jack Grealish for 100
But
million."
also, Forest could turn around to us and say, "Well, we bought all those players, but they'll say we're a stable Premier League club and we're earning more money from every sponsor." No, that's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying.
We don't know that because that's not our club. That's all I'm saying. They can turn around and go, we bought all these players, but we're making loads more money because we're in the Premier League, we're getting Premier League money and everything's going all right. So actually, on the surface, you see us buying a whole new squad, but we needed a whole new squad. Now, that's what I'm saying. We don't know that because we're not Nottingham Forest fans. We don't have the finger on the pulse of everything that goes on at that club, the same as we don't know what goes on at any other club, really. All we see is the sensational headlines of Forest have bought a new squad or whoever. We don't know. The same as all these people don't know what goes on. We're the ones who have to suffer the drop in quality. We're the ones who've had to. The reason why we've been where we are for the last 2 years is because we've lost all our quality players and have had to replace them with players starting at the bottom who are building themselves up. People don't see that. They don't see 2 years of Mikalenko being bang average, and then suddenly everyone goes, "Oh, he looks a decent player in, doesn't he?" It's like, yeah, but we've had to suffer that kid for 2 years.
Still learning
exactly.
The games and all that. So
that's what they don't see.
We have been punished as well because we know that Everton have had headroom in that PSR, but weren't allowed to spend because the Premier League are looking. Now Everton might have just gone, "You know what? Okay, we will spend money and we'll make sure we finish higher up. So when you take the 6 points off us for failing it, we'll be sound anyway, because the 6 points will drop us there." We didn't. Can we buy some bog rolls for the friggin' Liver build in the Premier League, or we'll have to get back to you? We should have. I still can't get my head around why the Premier League would do that anyway. I know, like, it's what we've said, we don't want this, but Everton would have been better. Even just going, "No, what Everton would have," and this is, sorry, John, you might tell me different here, but you know this story that the Werewolves ran, where Everton gets sued for 300 million.
That's 3 clubs, 100 million each.
Plunges Everton into administration.
And then we lose another 9 points.
So all I'll say is, we lose another 9 points. But if we're in administration, Leeds, Leicester and Burnley,
don't get anything.
You're not getting a penny. You won't even get a compensation thing off Everton for 3 million, 2 million, 1 million. We'd be gone. We'd be in administration. Yeah. And you know what? Everton, all right.
Because we broke the rules to stop teams going. That stops teams going into administration.
But we'd be...
Well done.
We'd be relegated. We'd also have 0 debt. We'd have nothing. We'd be starting again. Just going, right, okay. So we're at level again now. So now, funnily enough, we can now go and spend big money on players again. Because you've put us back to a better position than if you just went, actually, don't put them into administration. Because they're going to have to struggle the way out of it, which is what we've been doing. Been trying to fight, hence why Everton haven't spent anything for years.
It's curious, isn't it? That the ultimate
all.
Sanction, i.e. the most painful thing that could happen to people for their jobs and all sorts of things, would be your company going out of business.
We didn't furlough staff in a global pandemic so people could eat. Remember that other clubs did. Other clubs ran to the government and got £200 million loans, and then because they couldn't do anything, they didn't have enough money, then went and splurged a load of money.
I think the thing we've missed, though, like the most important thing we've missed is, like, I think it's been said over the weekend loads, it's like, we knew all this was coming. That's the worst thing.
So did the Premier League.
We protested all this. The people who caused all this are no longer at our club. Father Machete is, but he's desperately trying to get out of our club. Like, these rules are just.
Why has he made no statement as the owner?
Because the CEO has done it.
I mean, that's been destroyed today by someone. The CEO.
Well, again, that's another thing Everton needs to sort out desperately quick.
Get a proper CEO.
They need to, and I know they can't, and because of where we are, but that desperately needs to be sorted out.
Or make him permanent.
Because I feel really sorry for Colin John, because he was literally, you could have got a cardboard cutout to go in that role, because it's not his role. He's not the man.
No, but I'm saying, if Everton decide he is, we'll make him permanent so we know. But don't leave him on the interim, because it's nonsense.
I mean, we're talking here, and obviously there's lots of Everton fans, as we're implying, who we've known about all this for a long time, and just like we don't know about Villa or Forest or whatever, I guess their fans don't know about us really. So they suffer the sensational type stuff,
course,
right? But you just did a pretty impassioned view about transfers and spending money and so on. So the last published accounts of Everton are for the year that financial year that ended in the summer of 2022, right? The ones for that's ended this summer we haven't seen yet. In that year we made a profit, and you can go on Company's House if you don't believe me. Profit on disposal of player registrations was £67.7 million in the financial year that ended 2022. And since then, that's probably got Richie in, I would guess, right?
That love Richie.
Yeah, but when did Richie go?
2022.
2022, but it won't have Anthony Gordon in, for example.
No.
Yeah.
Which was 45 million.
Yeah. And that was a big hike on the previous year when we also made a profit on disposal of registrations, i.e. transferring players out, So you're doing your best. You've got yourself into a right hole. You're working alongside the league, okay? Clearly, when those they came out, we weren't sanctioned and we weren't referred to an independent commission in March 2022, were we? So presumably we're all right up to that point. And then in 2023, something's gone wrong. Yeah, in that year, hasn't it?
Because the Premier League did say to clubs when they moaned about it at the time, there was nothing to see.
And that's why some of those have said, okay, we're off. Yeah, we won't go pursuing
like
people.
Said, we're not sat here. I don't think any of us are sat here saying Everton are innocent in this.
Well, they're not. They're guilty.
That's right. We know the football club, to be fair, in its statement said they accepted they'd gone over it. So it's not like we're going, they've added it up wrong. Yes, there's always...
This is a debate on how much over.
This is a debate on the mitigating circumstances, isn't it, really?
Well, yeah, you're over for these reasons, right? And the independent commission have said most of those reasons aren't really... Suck it up, lads. These things happen.
Wars
and that's the point.
Just happen.
When it says
pandemics just happen.
They just happen.
The way it is,
they just happen.
Well, don't forget it. All Premier League clubs got some relief from COVID.
I remember Stalybridge Celtic when the Spanish flu came. They got a 10-point deduction for it because they couldn't produce oranges at half time. It's terrible.
James says every club could have sued West Ham for the Tevez thing. Then.
Of course,
on
this logic, absolutely. Anyone who breaks the rules, everybody else can go after them. But
everyone could have sued Derby.
Listen, we talk on the sofa, don't we, often about sunny day plans, right? It's a sunny day plan for somebody at a football club to say, hey...
Because Kenobi is like, lad, keep blasting it.
Yeah, we could go and sue them. And at that stage of the discussions, it's all one-way traffic, isn't it? They're guilty, we'll get money. This is the litigation culture that you have in North America, and is emerging, if not emerged already, in this country, which is something for nothing. Got nothing to lose, have we? Let's just bang in a claim, right? And everyone's insurance policies go up, right? But when football clubs do that, they're going to have to prove the losses they've had. And I just personally think it would be a hugely sad day, and this has got nothing to do with the tribalist bit, but by all means, if you're not an Everton fan, you might think it is. The day that football clubs start suing the league or start suing each other, it's done.
Yeah.
It's done. Because every whinge bag who feels hard done, they'll be suing for offside. Some clubs try to do that, We want matches replayed. Things are going to be in court all the time. And if they're really slow, imagine to get to cut the commissions and things. So again, going back to Everton should be saying the process it needs to be more transparent. You need to explain how you've determined this is really, really serious and this one wasn't, or whatever the case may be. But what are we going to do? I mean, they've said the end of the season, haven't they? They'll convene this before the end of the season. Well, hopefully they'll do it rather quickly, right? Because in general terms, people want to know one way or the other, don't they? But what happens when you try and do 2 or 3 clubs at the same time? All of whom, if found guilty, are going to get points deductions. All of whom may then potentially be pursued by their competitors because according to others, that means you've cheated. I mean, cheated is a very emotional phrase, isn't it? Right?
I mean,
but if we're saying every guilty party who transgresses profitability and sustainability rules is a cheat, then every team in that division potentially is a cheat, isn't it?
It's all, the whole thing's just mad, isn't it? I mean, Mike Goward tweeted before. He's done a great thing with Patrick Ridge on the Off the Weekend.
Oh, he has, yeah.
We'll be putting a clip in more than a game, which we'll be doing.
That'd be good.
Says the PSR is defined specifically on financial management.
That's right.
There's actually nothing in the Premier League handbook or judgment image that states PSR is intended to ensure no team earns any advantage over others. PSR is solely focused on responsible management of income and expenditure.
Absolutely.
And he's put the actual...
No, I've read it.
Why isn't somebody going after the Premier League for that then? Why aren't City using all their wealth and all their influence?
Because they're not even thinking about it.
Well, someone's just said all this is done is this is just fuel for Manchester City's lawyers to see how.
Well, it exposes and puts a spotlight on, and that's what Mike did over the weekend. If you saw his streams,
yeah, he's done a brilliant thing.
They were good because the whole thing is. And we talked about this when we used to joke about financial fair play, didn't we, right? Profitability, sustainability, that's what it's about. And yet, the Premier League and fundamentally and the Commission have agreed that the only appropriate punishment is a sporting one.
Yeah.
What?
How? Yeah.
Because they've said, if you breach these rules, you must have had a sporting advantage. Therefore, your punishment should be a sporting one. Now, is that because they think no matter what fine they come up with for Man City, wouldn't even, bounce off the side?
City just laugh at them.
You know what I mean? So Mike's, this is his subject, right? And he's right. Go fine in the rules where it says that this rule is about stopping sporting advantage, because it's not. It's about not going out of business, ultimately. That's the reason for designing it, wasn't it? Yeah. And yet the consequences could be clubs going to administration because they're penalised by the regulator or I shouldn't say regulator because we're having one, by the league, in a manner that actually is disproportionate.
Well, all it does really is it just hastens the need for an independent regulator. The Premier League, with this actions, and obviously Richard Masters in charge of it, has proven that they need a independent regulator ASAP. They can't do it. They're not fit for purpose on their own. And I think they've tried to be clever here. Richard Masters, he's tried to be clever. He's played roulette and he's lost hugely.
Well, come on. The organisation he's the chief exec of referred Everton Football Club to an independent commission. He made a witness statement to the independent commission who pushed it back and said, you might want to rewrite that, mate. Don't you tell us what to do. So how could he still be in post? Really? He's been chastised by his own commission for overstepping the mark.
But especially when it's just a show trial. Well, that's all it is it?
Sorry, I'm shrugging because I'm agreeing with you.
This is not... So this is the worst thing that any Premier League football club has ever done. Is that what we're saying? It's the worst.
It is, because it's the biggest punishment. It's the biggest punishment.
So there you go. If building a stadium during a global pandemic and a war is the worst thing a Premier League football club has ever done, then fine. If that's worse than hiding payments for players and playing managers from 3 different...
Hacking someone else's youth academy to find out who the best players are, and they were found guilty of it.
All sorts of stuff that has gone on over the years. If Everton building a new stadium is the worst thing that's ever done, then fair enough. Fair enough. Because it's utter nonsense. It just highlights the Premier League for what it is. It's a sham of an organisation.
It really is, or should be, a problem. Unless this is another version of the NIAS law, right, where it only ever happens once and Everton are the victims.
But surely then we could sue them for that.
But what I don't get really is Chelsea. The new owners are doing the damnedest to be squeaky clean, notwithstanding they spend huge amounts of money. But I mean, so they found the problem. They told UEFA, they told the Premier League. UEFA went, naughty boys, slap wrist, £9 million or whatever it was. And here we are. Clearly, because you didn't want to deal with Chelsea before you dealt with Everton, right? You're still investigating. What is there to investigate? look at all these offshore payments and things. We think these are all suspicious, and we've reached an agreement with UEFA, and the Premier League are still thinking about it. Come on, guys.
See, there's no way you could sit here with Richard Masters.
Well, he wouldn't come anywhere near us,
no, of course he wouldn't. But imagine if you just sat down with them and went, okay, so Chelsea have admitted this over a number of years of literally
cheating.
What looks like cheating and looks like cooking.
To use some journalists' phrases, it's cheating.
Yeah, right.
It's also illegal.
And all of the stuff, and looks like cooking of books and being...
all of the above.
All of that stuff, right? All of that stuff. But building a stadium's worse than that. So they've won trophies, they've won Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, FA Cups, whatever. And all of that doesn't equate to building a new stadium. That's worse what Everton have done. And he couldn't sit there with a straight face and go, well, yeah, could he? Because it's absolute craziness, right? It's craziness. So I honestly don't get it. I just think it's absolute madness. Everton will stay up even with the 10 points. Everton will comfortably stay up even with the 10 points because there's 3, 4, 5 teams much.
And then we go through it all again next year.
But then I don't think we do though, because I think once they've had the points taken off it, it's the end of the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Paul Joyce will have checked with somebody. So, well, if they breach it again, do they go around this loop again?
But the rule, what the ruling and what Paul Joyce did say is because in that ruling it said that clubs will face it even if you've been done, you can be done again if you breach it again. Yeah. Well, that's just reiterating the rule. There's nothing changed.
That's right.
It's literally just saying if Liverpool breach it, they'll be done. That's what it's saying. So this is the new ruling that clubs will.
Can you imagine a club, maybe Everton, right, going to
we know we're massively in profit for this last year.
Yeah. Go to the courtroom because you're getting done again next year, and you say, well, actually, one of our mitigating factors is you took 10 points off us. We'd have been 5 places higher up if you hadn't done that.
It's all.
What are they going to do when we win the League Cup? Yeah.
It's all crazy.
But a serious point about that is you've got that with Everton, right? Say, and we have the good fortune because we've been on the naughty step for so long, and we've had austerity, and the consequences of that was desperate last day, second to last day, survival, and so on, right? Other clubs have gone down, bounced straight back. You talk about sporting integrity. What happens to sporting integrity when 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it turns out to be, clubs in a particular season possibly could all be subject to hearings which may or may not result in points deductions? Sell that. You imagine the poor guy in North America or in the Far East trying to say, actually, this isn't a six-pointer in a relegation battle, because actually it really depends whether Team A gets this point deduction or not, or Team B doesn't, or Super Sundays are all out the window, aren't they? I'm curious about what the rights holders think. I'm sure they're being opportunists as well and thinking that they can spend less money on buying the thing. It's not good for the brand, is it?
No, well, personally, I think they're going to damage the brand with this, because I think it is. You've opened up the can of worms now. And I think the can of worms, once it's open, you can't close it.
Well, it's going to have to be explained how you've worked out what the sanction is, isn't it? Because how can you repeat it? They can't always be subjective, can they? But then again, the league currently has a problem with handball if you're in that colour shirt isn't handball if you're in this colour shirt.
It's like
or you get a different referee, or you're at a different ground, or the cameras are not working. The amount of subjectivity can't persist and roll into heavyweight legal arguments. Can't be left with, I hear what you say, but just seemed like 10 points was right when I mentioned it, So go on, someone saying something.
That was Steve Dickinson, the so-called independent commission chaired by Dave Phillips, KC, the well-known lawyer for Leeds United.
That's right.
Dave Phillips ruled that Leeds and others could seek compensation against Everton if found guilty.
Yep.
Dave Phillips then found Everton guilty.
Yeah.
And there you go. I mean, if that isn't dodgy.
It's the look, yeah.
But hey ho, what can you do?
Let's talk about the fans' response then to this? Obviously, what is it?
£36,000 and counting
has been raised. I mean,
how mad is that?
The fans are fighting hard. Sunday should be very, very interesting.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I mean, what can we do other than continue to show our
disappointment?
I mean, yeah, that's
anger,
a nice way of
frustration.
That's a nice way of saying it, isn't it? I don't know what can we do, John, moving forward?
I suppose we, as a fan base, an Everton fan base, then we show solidarity with the club itself. Certainly the players and the manager, let's call it the sporting side, have been getting their act together. That's shown in the performances recently. They've got a bit more mental and moral fibre about them than they had in previous seasons, so hopefully that holds up. Yeah. But there are world-class managers from the past who built their whole careers on siege mentality, and some of those are across the park, sort of thing, So I think we can turn it into a force for good, which is all the fans pulling in the same direction. I think the wider picture is, and whether this is the start of something real that will allow fans to take the game back from the money men, but I just think if the right organisations, whether it's the FSA or whatever, can get all fans pulling in the right direction, we can encourage and really advocate the creation of the independent regulator. And sure, down the line, I'm sure we'll all argue about it, but if it truly is truly independent, then people can take it on the chin then, can't they? And I'd be really interested. This apparent narrative that the Premier League is doing stuff that it's doing because it doesn't want an independent regulator as an entity. I do wonder whether Everton right now think there should be an independent regulator or not. And of all those clubs that voted yay or nay for independent regulation, tell us which ones have said yes and which ones have said no. Right? And get the other 6 to say, no, we're never going to be in a European Super League. But none of that's going to happen, is it? So where there's billions to play with, people look after themselves, and I think that's what we have to do, look after number one. But try and get our angst to stop others having to get what they think are unjust punishments as well.
DJ Spuddle said, are you forgetting the findings? No sporting advantage. So what can they sue for if we had no sporting advantage?
Well, the report says that it's implied that if you breach the rules, you have had a sporting advantage for the whole of the reporting period. What it also says, though, is Everton didn't deliberately do it. Well, you don't get sporting advantage accidentally very often, do you? Yeah. So that's some of the conflicts and the conundrums and whatever you want to call them inside the judgment, really, which presumably someone somewhere will forensically examine and say, that is where we can seek to argue to have the punishment reduced.
Cy Parker says, will Leicester be sued by the clubs that missed out on promotion from the Championship after they breached FFP in the Championship after recording a £21 million loss in 2013-14? They were only fined £3.1 million.
I know. Well, the Treacherous Six got 3.6 each for trying to destroy the football pyramid. So again, when you talk about proportionality and all that sort of stuff, this just doesn't compare. It just doesn't compare. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, it is what it is. Everton will comfortably stay up this season, regardless.
Well, we did our round the tower, didn't we? And I was talking to the international guys I was talking to this morning. I said, curiously, the day before this came out, I said, we had a question, which was that, how many points would it have to be if it's points? And we're happily discussing it won't be, type of thing. And the lowest number was 15. So let's walk that talk, Everton. Yeah. And give him his due, one of the hosts, these are guys from the Republic of Ireland, immediately said, well, you could be out the bottom 3 in a couple of games.
We will be. We'll be.
So
by the end of December, we'll be away.
I was also accused of being quite balanced on this thing. Good. And I think most fans are. And that's why I don't like the misrepresentation around the narrative that we are claiming that we've done nothing wrong. You open this up with, let me just say, we could almost finish it whenever that's due. The same thing. Yeah. We're not saying we haven't broke the rules. Nope. We're saying the punishment doesn't fit the crime. That's what we're saying. and it leaves so little wriggle room for anyone who does something worse. It's not true. And if this league wants to send a message that if you're going to break the rules, break them big, right, because you're in a better place, then one might suggest break them big, win lots of competitions, become the darlings of world football, because your football is absolutely beautiful, and then no one can even imagine sanctioning you in a way that throws you out the league, and the next time they negotiate broadcast rights, the number's smaller. Because all these, XOs...
Well, James says should have just kept spending.
Well, yeah.
So that any points deduction was meaningless.
Absolutely right.
The rules are there to break them big, cheat well.
Yeah. Well, hide things. Deny all knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juventus in the Italian league were docked 15 points in January for financial irregularities.
And got it back again.
And then was reduced to 10 on appeal. And then it's there bouncing around, but it got reduced. So people saying, is that the benchmark? Just appeal, it'll get...
Well, no reference in the judgment to stuff outside of England, so the benchmark is Football League, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's a mad one. It's obviously going to run.
I wonder how many media outlets have not asked to interview Richard Masters in the last couple of days, because he's not going to pop up and say anything, is he?
Well,
because the appeal process gives you an excuse not to. I can't prejudice the process.
Well, we know the names of everyone, don't we? And people know who is involved and who's put it forward. So he's in trouble, really, isn't he?
It's not good for the brand.
No, they've like I said, they've thought they were being clever and they've ended up damaging it, and hopefully it'll carry on and get messy.
That's the other side of it, isn't it? The amount of people who've come out and spoken.
Steve Rotherham's done
just footballers. Most footballers have said it's stupid, it's out of proportion. Is it the worst thing anyone's ever done?
That's a good way to describe it.
I know there's a few people who are, and I don't like this tone, and I've heard a couple of ex-players say it, they'll take it on the chin and they'll be all right. It's like, that's not the point.
No.
That's not the point.
No.
You're missing the point completely. It'll galvanise them. We were getting galvanised anyway. We were getting galvanised because we were winning games and we were in a healthy position. That's what was galvanised. I don't need this to galvanise the club.
No.
I don't need 10 points taken off us to galvanise the club. But most people, I think, have come out and said this is a joke. Now, I don't know whether that'll have any sway when the appeal happens, or anyone who looks at it will go, God, this is being a little bit stupid and we have gone a little bit over the top. I don't know. But as you said there, like Steve Rotherham's come out today and sent a letter to the Premier League.
Andy Burnham said stuff, but he's never Tony. But with Steve's a red, so
but he's also the Metro Mayor of Liverpool.
No, I know,
so.
and he knows what that stadium's going to do to the regen at North Liverpool. But what about all the people at Everton who've already lost their jobs, trying to comply with rules which ultimately we thought we had complied with, and then you get a sanction which could mean we end up with less money because we've finished lower down the league.
Well, we've already...
Therefore, more people will lose their jobs.
Well, we've dropped right down the league, so we've already had essentially an unwritten £10 million fine as well.
Yeah, because you've lost those points. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all...
So a financial penalty isn't appropriate, but we've got one of them as well.
So...
Because the mere fact it's 10 points must assure us that we're going to finish, wherever we end up, we'll be lower down the league than we would have been based on winning games and drawing games. Yeah, therefore, it is a financial penalty.
Geordie Troon for Life says you don't take anything on the chin if you believe you're 100% right. You always fight for what's right. Fact.
Spot on, mate.
And that's what we have to do. We have to just, because this, not saying we shouldn't have some kind of punishment, we should. No one's saying that, but 10 points, come on. It's not the worst thing that's ever been done in the history of the Premier League, is it? If we'd have bought a load of players and hidden the things and all that, then you go, well, you've done that. We haven't.
Clubs who go into administration get less points.
If over the last few years we've been spending 100 million every season and going, we'll see what happens.
Personally, I think if the appeal, if they came out and said it's 10 points suspended for, say, like 6 years or whatever, then I'd take that. Because essentially, I know people go, oh yeah, but you're just trying to get away with it. No, because for me, you've been done. Don't do it again, or we'll come down with the maximum fine. You've got mitigating circum. We don't necessarily accept them, but if you do it again, then we're coming down hard. And essentially, if it was 5-6 years, they've got an opportunity every year, haven't they, to catch you out the way it works, because it's a rolling
but
thing.
we're going to get caught out every year if we breach anyway.
And
That's what I'm saying.
What they're doing is they're also making sure with that you actually do stay within the profit and sustainability, which is the whole point of it, is to keep you there, or you know that you're in huge trouble. That's the whole point of it, to help you, is it not? Really,
Yeah.
that's what
Well, it is.
That's what they tried to sell it on.
I mean, to put absolutely in the context of this, which is why you naturally end up with this is disproportionate. One of the things that Everton did in their PSR was, saying creative sounds dodgy, right? But from an accounting point of view, they chose to be reasonably creative, right, around, and this is the transfer levy and how much of that ends up in youth development, which of course is excluded from the PSR calculations and all those sorts of things. And the Premier League's view was, well, you've never done that before, no one else has, therefore you can't do it. I have no idea how somebody concluded you're not allowed to do it simply because no one else has done it before. No one would ever innovate, would they, on anything? So there's plenty of opportunity, I think, in the judgment and the reporting of it to ask appropriate questions in and around the process and how decisions and conclusions were drawn, and pitch that to a different group of, a panel, different commission, and see whether you get a different outcome. And I think it's interesting that right now, if I'm the Premier League, I must be thinking, surely this doesn't actually go in the way I want it to. Because once you get some momentum that you're being too harsh, and it's not going to stop the creation of an independent regulator, what are you actually trying to achieve? They've gone from turning a blind eye to everything to taking a baseball bat to someone they can think they can get away with it. And when you ask, what can we do? Don't let them think even one iota they can get away with it.
It's got to be. It's got
fight every inch. Fight every inch. And no disrespects to PED, but saying, well, if you suspend it for 6 years, we'll go quietly. No, sorry. No, but 10's wrong. Full stop.
No, 10's wrong. We obviously do deserve some kind of punishment.
No, I agree. But as soon as you've said 10 is wrong, you can't agree to 10 suspended because it's still wrong.
No, right? I think you can.
I don't.
I think you can. Because what you've done there, you have said to the world, we accept it, and we will not do it again. And it doesn't really matter if it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It doesn't really matter. If someone's put something over your head and said, don't do it again, then don't do it again. And work as hard as you can.
If I'm the Premier League, I say, that's what the 105 was for. You should have complied, right? But
we're saying we did comply, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, they should have.
So don't accept 10. No, I agree. I agree all that. Just don't accept 10 because it's suspended, because that's a sunny day plan that says that'll make us behave ourselves. But everybody who's watching this, particularly Evertonians, will have had WhatsApp conversations over the weekend with their mates and all that sort of stuff, where you're thinking, and this is my sunny day plan when we're doing the business stuff, the sunny day plan is, you give me what you like, suspend it, because I'll never break the rules. But you will. You will. If it's not right, and I don't think 10 is right, find out what the right number is and take it. And take it now, get it behind you and push on, right? It's clearly difficult if they suspend some of it, but Everton's entry point to this has to be 10 is wrong. It's disproportionate.
Well, they are, aren't they? So, that's what Everton's defence is. They said that
it has to be.
Friday. They said
it has to be.
We accept. We've gone over it. We don't accept. We've got a different view. Yeah. Which is, of course, if we say 7 million's on youth development in the Premier League, well, no one else has ever done that. How can you rule that it's wrong?
That's right, yeah.
Because it doesn't say it's wrong. If it says in your rules it's wrong, absolutely. Right? But just because I say, well, John, that money should be in there. If you've told me, if you've never said to me, well, you can't do that, you can't then say, well, so I'm erring on the side it's wrong. Which is, there's loads.
I have no doubt that when this appeal is played out, there will be adjustments made to the Premier League rules to bring clarity.
Well, it's got to be clarity. Right? Just put it out there.
So the next guy in the pipe knows full well, as Ped said, for example, as soon as you go a penny over, minus 6 points, and then it's 5 million blocks or whatever it is, and you get a point for every one of those. And that means you end up with 50 point deduction. Tough. But of course, if you get a 50 point deduction, yeah, but imagine if you got a 50 point deduction, say in August or September, and you know you're relegated. Do you players your heart out every week? Of course you don't. Do players want to risk injury?
No.
You know what I mean? Sport and integrity.
It's gone.
Pandora's box.
This is why the independent regulator has said there won't be point deductions ever again.
Yeah.
It won't happen.
And where are all those journalists who said don't punish the fans? Where are they now?
Michael O'Hagan on the super chat, thank you. Michael says, all right lads, hello from RAF Lossiemouth in Scotland.
Ooh.
I hope this doesn't affect the on the field performance from the players from now on. All the best. No, I think it'll galvanise for them. They just got to keep doing what they're doing, work hard, win games, which they will, and climb up the league. And then when we get some of the points back, the position will be even stronger, won't it? And that's what
because
they've got
then,
to do.
Yeah, down the track we'll get some points back for free, allegedly, even though we've earned them already. But if 10 becomes 5, we would jump up the league, wouldn't we?
Absolutely.
Does that mean then the clubs we go over would start saying, no, we now want to appeal the appeal?
But you've opened that, haven't you?
It's mad.
You couldn't though, because then the ruling would be it was excessive.
Yeah.
So you should have been. You've got what you've got. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
The whole. You just can't go down this route, and this is the problem that a fella who was decided to try and make a case of this no fee, no wins, because he thinks he can get some money from it, even though he knows they're probably not going to win. That is the thing. I think he will get that of like
chances.
He's a chancer. He's already got one foot in the camp of the other team and then involved. Made sure we got.
So who's this?
Whoever's running it, Igo or whatever his name is,
okay.
Who's already been.
Oh, the fellow who's on the judicial panel.
Two of them who's on the independent panel, but one of them's one's running it out the back door as well.
All right.
That's the way it is, isn't it? We take it on the chin and we get on with it. We'll take our points, whatever it is. It'll get reduced, and we'll get on with it. And then we're back to getting going forward with it. Then I've got no fear. Oh, they'll be looked at again next season. Well, they can't be looked at again next season, can they? They can't be looked at. They're looked at like every Premier League football club.
It's like, will VAR look at that? Yeah, they look all the time. Same here.
That's it. So you can't go, because I know it was people tried to make a story out of it, particularly our mate Matt. They'll be looked at again. They're investigating again. No, they're not. They're just looking at next year. And I can tell you right now that Everton have made a profit anyway. So
and as we discussed previously, it would be somewhat foolish, wouldn't it, if the accounts for our club that closed June of this year, that if they, at least the flash versions of them, weren't shared with this commission anyway. You know?
Paul Kilpatrick rather said, did they not take it over 4 years due to COVID? If so, should there not be 140 million you can lose?
No, because they did an average of 2 of those seasons, didn't they?
Yeah, which again, that's open to interpretation as well. How do you do it? If you're doing 4 years, it should be 4 years every year, the same thing. You can't go, well, what we'll do is we'll just make it up as we go along and average it, which is what they did.
Well, it's interesting because, again, the report talks about the treatment of COVID, right? And so the league itself presumably agrees that COVID was a difficult time. But the output from the commission is that's a normal business obstacle. You should have got over it. You know?
Like John Vance says about the youth thing. Well, no one put contracts over 8 years till Chelsea did, and
that's
then it
right.
took a while before they went. Oh, we can't do that now. But Chelsea have still just done it. By the way, they can't do it when it comes in. It hasn't come in yet, John. So
well, they're not going to count the amortization over 8. Oh, sorry, whatever the contract is. Just they're limiting it, aren't they? To was it 5 years? They're limiting it.
6, isn't it? I don't know, mate.
Whatever. But then you're getting adjustments between statutory accounts then and PSR.
Bradley Smith's gone a little bit more thing. He thinks it's all part of Saudi Arabia dismantling the Premier League for their own ends. They're putting it in. Who knows? I mean, that's the kind of thing where people start laughing, but then you go, oh, was it? You know what I mean? I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just saying. But
well, UEFA have got a new sponsor in Aramco, haven't they? So
we should have just literally gone like miles over the line. And miles, because maximum 12 points. Yeah. They've only got 12 points. So we could have gone 500 million over the line and got 12 points.
Refused to cooperate.
500 million over the line would have had us some hellish good players who would have easily got 12 points back like that. So that's what we should have done. We've been dickheads for trying to stay close to the line. Should have gone, fuck you. No, and we'll see you in court in 3 years when we tie you up in red tape. See you later. Keep buying and keep buying, and then go, we've got 12 points. Damn.
We'll only win the league by 8 points
exactly,
now.
And that's essentially what other clubs will do.
Yeah.
So, listen, it is what it is, isn't it? We're going to have to fight it. Goodison's going to be horrific.
It's going to be good.
Like, in a good way. The Premier League should be left with... Well, everyone should be left with... without any kind of... what did they mean by that? By the way we sing and the displays and everything else. Make it horrible.
Again, for the non-Evertonians out there are... is it too bad to say the 1878ers are... Nearest we've got to ultras, aren't they? Passionate fans and stuff. And they banged up a GoFundMe, just giving type thing. That would have been on Friday, wouldn't it? Was it Friday?
Friday it was,
yeah. Was it? Chasing 40k now for lots of flags.
40,000.
Lots of flags and stuff and banners we're going to have, yeah? And
40,000.
if only it was a live game on telly.
Only you were playing one of the,
Premier teams.
Yeah.
They're probably AI is all out and replaces with FIFA. You see all these
Someone said they put the COVID crowd on instead.
Yeah.
But what can you do? We can only do our bit, can't we? And it's commentators throughout the world will be explaining what it is. Sadly, lots of them will be getting it wrong. Hoaxer says we lost a number 10 for. You can say his name. We lost Gylfi Sigurdsson, and it cost us 42 million on the books. No, it didn't,
because he was already amortising away.
Amortised, wasn't he? But it cost about 15 or 18 million because Everton had a bid the week before for 9, or the same week, and we're mulling it over, and then 4 days later, that all fell to bits.
See, the thing is,
and his wages.
If there's evidence for that, that is a genuine mitigation, isn't it?
Well, there was evidence, but it's whether or not. It's whether or not that was it. But anyway, listen, it is what it is. We've got to. It's the points thing is the worst thing, isn't it? And it's too high, and it needs reduction, and it may well get halved. It might get. I don't know. I think basically it's just the case. The fans have just got to come together, stick together, come up with a way.
That's undoubted now.
Come up with a way that can be demonstrated in a positive manner, and keep it circulating on social media. Use whatever means you can. Don't let the likes of Richard Masters be forgotten. Make sure his name. Keep educating people as to why. Educate people as to why we're upset. Not the fact we're not trying to go. We didn't do anything wrong. I know I've seen some Evertonians trying to say, no, we didn't really do anything wrong.
Oh, we have,
haven't we? I think the club have admitted that. We deserve a punishment, but this, to be punished as if we had the worst thing that has ever been done by a Premier League team, ever in the history of football, ever, is utterly mind-blowing, isn't it? And that's why a lot of Evertonians are incensed. That's why the club's incensed. So keep that going. And that's all we can really do. And make sure when we get to Goodison on Sunday, the team know that
you get in a bit earlier, Baz.
Might get in 1 minute earlier.
Baz arrives like 1 minute before the whistle blows. So
no, the Sky production team can't tell Everton fans what they can take into the ground, man.
No.
Honestly, they can't.
Everything will be.
There's
safe.
a lot of. Put it this way: there's a lot of stuff planned for Sunday.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. People will be, very clear on how Everton feel about this, and all that. And Richard Masters will be singled out, I think, because he's the one who put the statement in, because it very much is a show trial. He doesn't want a Premier League regulator, so we now need to back. I think there's a petition out there now started to get an independent regulator. Make sure you sign it for every club. Forget about Everton in this. This needs to be signed by fans of every club to protect your club, and to try to get this league, particularly if you're a fan of everyone outside the 6 who are looked after. But even if you're part of that 6 and you feel like VAR and the way it's run isn't correct, and the PGMOL and the Premier League changing kick-off times so whenever they want and they don't care about fans, it's all part of it. So if that is out there, everybody should sign it and make sure we get independent regulation as soon as possible and start trying to level the game up a little bit and certainly try and make things better as fans for us, so that Newcastle fans aren't sent to Bournemouth at 12:30 on a Saturday afternoon because it suits them or whatever. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Boxing Day. You know, Tottenham fans aren't going up to Newcastle or whatever. You're not getting sent down to Brighton if you're at the other end of the country on a New Year's Day because it suits the Premier League. Get an independent regulator who looks at all this and goes, yeah, that isn't, you're not actually treating fans correctly here. We need all of that.
It's mad, isn't it? That when all this was being consulted on, the Tracy Crouch report and the like, amongst general fans who contributed, overwhelming support for an independent regulator, but the league doesn't want one. It's our bloody game.
Ask yourself why.
It's our game.
Right, we are going to be live on More Than a Game at 3:00, and we might have a slightly different, like, we'll look at it from other people's points of view, not just an Evertonian one. If you there's the link there.
Of course it is.
The link is there. Of course it is. You literally just have to click the link. 3:00. Get as many of you over there. Let's carry on the discussion for half an hour on More Than a Game. Subscribe and like if you haven't. If you're a fan of other clubs, Geordie Tune for Life, I expect you over there. King Hoddle, I expect you over there. 3:00. Let's get over and have a proper conversation about this and about what other stuff an independent regulator would be good for the Premier League. Do it. Right, the link is there. Go there now. You'll have a holding.
It just comes up all by itself.
You'll have a holding thing. Get yourself a drink. See you in a minute.
Going on.
All right. Thanks a lot. Make sure you like and subscribe on the way out as well. Thank you for watching. See you in a bit. Bye.